Sarika Tukon Dajahao. Hello everyone and welcome back. And today I'm joined by a friend, Aree, who's going to very nicely and kindly share her adoption story from Thailand all the way to America. So welcome to the channel.
Thank you, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So would you mind sharing with us like your story and sort of overview of how it happened from you going from Thailand to America?
Sure. Well, I was adopted from Thailand. I was 11 months when my family came to Bangkok to adopt me, and then I moved back to the United States where I grew up in Kansas City, super random, Kansas City, Missouri, and I spent my entire life there until very recently deciding to move back a few years ago to kind of reconnect with my roots and my heritage.
So you said that you were adopted at 11 months,
yeah,
and grew up in Kansas. So were you ever sat down and had the talk of you're adopted and everything like that?
Actually, no, which is, I get this question a lot though, because I think it is an important conversation to have. But for me, I grew up in a Caucasian family. So obviously, like, I knew that there was some disconnect there. There was, like, I knew that they didn't have me, you know, naturally, whatever. And so they didn't really have to have that conversation where they sat me down and said, hey, you know, you're adopted and this is where you're from. But I always just grew up hearing, oh, yeah, you're from Thailand, you're born in Thailand. Didn't come from mommy's tummy. We got you a different way, a special way. So I didn't really have that conversation that a lot of families do have, although in some circumstances I do think it's important, definitely, to have that conversation. Yeah.
And then so knowing, sort of being told, okay, you're from Thailand, you didn't come from mommy's tummy. So you obviously, as you said as well, they were Caucasian or not.
Yeah.
So you knew
it was obvious.
Going on.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you think that conversation is important.
Right.
Do you think that's something you potentially missed out on then? Do you think that having that actual sit down, okay, here's where you're from, here's the whole story, could have helped?
For me, personally, I mean, I think my personality is I want to discover things for myself. So if we were to have that conversation, I would have wanted it to come from me. Like, hey, mom and dad, can we talk about this? I'm curious about my background, my heritage, where I came from. But then again, that's just my own personality where I like to take initiative, and I don't want to just kind of have that laid on to me or pushed onto me if I'm not ready for it. So for me, no, I don't think it would have helped or not helped. It's just kind of, I think it worked out the way that it was supposed to, that entire dialogue.
Yeah. And did they ever tell you like specifically where in Thailand you were from?
Yeah, so I was born in Bangkok, but then I know that according to my birth certificate, my family is from the northeast, so Korat, or Nakhon Ratchasima. But I actually have never been there. I've been planning to visit for a while, but I just haven't had the chance to. But that's where I would say my biological, at least on my mom's side, is from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you been in touch with your biological family?
So I did meet them in 2015. I was like 17 years old. I was a baby. I was so young. I met my biological mother. We don't really know where my father is or any details about him, just that he wasn't the greatest person. But I met them once, and since then I've had very open, extended like arms to them. If you want to see me again, I'm fine with it. Wherever, whenever, just tell me. But I think for her especially, it's hard, and so I think once was good enough for her, just because like reopening wounds, and it is a very taboo thing in Thailand. So I'm not sure like if we will ever meet again, but of course I'm open to that. And yeah, I was young, and I didn't speak any Thai at that time. So also like the communication was really difficult. But if we were to meet again, like now, I would be obviously very open to it and be able to have a better conversation with her than I was able to at that time.
Yeah. And so when you met, was that when you first moved? Did you move to Thailand at that age, or was that just
No, that was my first time coming back actually since being adopted. And I was, like I said, I was 17, and so it actually took a long time because I had a lot of friends who they grew up and they visited Thailand every year, who were adopted as well from Thailand, and they visited Thailand every year. Their parents kind of like wanted them to integrate that way. But for me, yeah, I wanted it to be my own idea. So I was like, okay, I'm 17 at that time. I'm ready to kind of face this. And so yeah, that was my first time coming back. It was a really, I think it was obviously one of the biggest moments in my life. So yeah, that was I don't know how many years ago that is now, but like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And then right. And then I just moved back 2 years ago. Yeah.
So that, as you say, was like the biggest moment in your life, which I can only imagine. What did that feel like? Sort of saying to your parents, okay, I'm gonna go to Thailand, I'm gonna find my family. Like, what was that sort of mentally like, emotionally like?
Okay, so I think, like I said, I had it like really prepared. Like I was kind of like, I finally came to the one day I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna get in touch with my Thai heritage, my Thai background. Leading up to that point, I had never intended to like come here and meet my biological family. I planned to come back with my mom to volunteer at my orphanage that I was adopted from. And it just so happened that same summer, it was a summer during high school, that I found my birth certificate, and that's where I found my family's names. And so then that was when I decided to, you know, I'm just gonna go out on a limb, see what happens, try to contact these people, and then it worked out. It was very, very interesting, complicated way how it worked out, but it worked out. And then flew to Thailand, met them very first day, so jet lagged, so like, yeah, that's just how it happened. I think none of it was really planned. And I think it cut in a way that was very special.
Obviously you said like your parents told you you're Thai, but did they ever sort of integrate Thai culture growing up?
No, and it's not because they didn't try. They had told me that when I was really little, I always say I don't remember this, but when I was really young, they used to bring me to like Thai restaurants and I would cry. I wouldn't want to be there. But then like if we went to Chinese restaurants, Japanese restaurants, Korean restaurants, like I was fine.
Oh, wow.
But when I knew it was Thai, I would cry. And part of it, they think, and I think they've talked to like professionals because they want to understand, is that they thought that I maybe was scared or had like a fear that they were going to take me back. But I mean, obviously I had no idea why I was like crying, but yeah, so they tried to, and then they had wanted me to also like take some classes, but I wasn't interested at all. And I think growing up in Kansas City, predominantly Caucasian, African American, and then the only Asians were Chinese, I really wanted to identify as being Chinese. So I took Chinese classes. I tried to go to a Chinese school, so not so much like Thai, but just Asian.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, later on, when I did really want to discover that part of my identity, that was when I geared more towards like Thailand and then working in Thai restaurants, things like that. But no, I didn't really grow up having Thai integrated into my life. Perhaps maybe just my name, because my name is Thai and my parents kept that name, but other than that, not really. But then again, it wasn't because they didn't want to or didn't try. It was more they wanted to make it my own personal choice.
I think there's a great power in that.
Yeah.
If you do it yourself, then it sticks more. And I think it's also interesting what you were saying in terms of you didn't want to learn Thai, you wanted to learn Chinese instead. And I think this goes for so many teenagers. You just kind of want to assimilate into what's around you.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to for sure. And then you again, of course, mentioned she's here now in Thailand. Living here. So what was the driver to move back to Thailand?
So when I decided to like work in Thai restaurants in high school, that was like my first step of like integrating myself into Thai culture. And I had tried to like learn the language a bit, try to familiarize myself with like the people, the food, such a big part of the culture. And so I did that, and then I did visit with my mom in 2015. And then when I decided to study international relations in university, I did an internship in Thailand for about a month.
Nice.
And then later on in university, I did a study abroad program for 6 months. So I gradually had to kind of like ease myself into it because I wasn't at all comfortable when I first came. Like when I was 17, I came and I still felt this like very big gap. I didn't, like here I am. I'm Thai, but I cannot communicate. I don't know anything. I felt very disconnected and distant from the part of my identity. And so then I had to think to myself, hey, what's the best way to do this? Because I don't want to just be scared and never know this side of me. So then, I did the month internship, 6 months study abroad, and then also when I graduated university, it was like peak of COVID. No jobs, nothing, but I knew that I want to do something in international relations. And so that's when I decided to go to Thailand, because I still have the dual citizenship. It was very easy for me to go back. So I decided to do that and then do a master's here and then kind of just stayed, and the rest is history for now. Yeah.
And so you definitely feel that gap has disappeared now, and do you feel Thai or do you feel American? Like, how would you describe that?
I get this question a lot, especially from Thai people, because I think when Thai people hear, oh, you're American, they're like, what? But you're Asian, you're Thai. And so I try to identify, and I do identify as both. Like whenever I introduce myself, even in the US, like, hi, my name is Aree, I'm Thai American, I'm Asian American. There doesn't have to be like, oh, you're either American or you're Thai. And for me, I fully embrace both identities, and I think that's really beautiful, because that's exactly what the United States is. It's just like this melting pot of people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different whatever. And so I think definitely I embrace both identities. I do feel closer to my Thai side, but obviously not being fluent is a huge thing. And Thai people, obviously, they can see me and they think I'm Thai, but as soon as I open my mouth, it's like, oh no, you're Filipino. Oh no, you're Malaysian. Oh no, you're Indonesian. You're not Thai. Just because, and I understand language is such an integral and important part of culture and identity. And then also just having grown up in the US with American parents, there is also that like disconnect, or that gap with mindsets, the way of thinking, just like cultural things. So I feel more Thai, but I don't think I could ever say that I feel fully Thai.
Yeah.
But then I don't know, that also brings into the question, like, what is fully Thai?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So in a way, yeah, I definitely do feel closer to it. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Obviously, as you mentioned, you were adopted by a Caucasian family, and there has been a lot of, in the UK as well as the US, there's been a lot of debate over this transracial cross-border adoption, and people are saying they don't think it's right for people to kind of either go to another country or to adopt outside their race, because they run the risk of losing their culture, losing that sort of side of them. So as someone who's gone through that yourself, what is your opinion? Do you think there's no problem there, or do you think it does need to be looked at?
I think that's a really complex question, and I think it has a lot of complex answers, really depending on the family, depending on the country you're adopting from, depending on the child, and the histories between the countries, and like obviously the racial dynamics within each country. It's really, really important to consider all of those things. I wouldn't ever discourage people from adoption.
Yeah.
That's my guess, like my broadest, biggest answer. But I do really encourage that if a family or a couple, whatever, is wanting to adopt and they want to adopt outside of their own race, it's so important that you research and that you ask people who have adopted before you. Like, do a lot of personal research. Try to read up about it. Try to get perspectives from people who have gone through the experience. Don't go into it blind, absolutely not. Because you do need to understand that child's birth country, that culture there, just so they don't have that disconnect. And I think and the fact that even people would be concerned about that is also a really good thing, because it shows that, wow, this is something that we need to consider. But yeah, again, very complex question, complex answers. But yeah, I wouldn't discourage people at all from adoption, but I highly encourage to know your stuff, do your research before making a huge decision like that impacts a child's life.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
And so, as you mentioned as well, you think people should research and stuff. So if anyone's watching this, would you give any advice in terms of how best to approach, or just advice in general for any prospective parents?
I think you should definitely try to ease them into it slowly. Don't force it onto them, because it could end up making them resent it, because they feel like this pressure of like, you need to learn about this culture, but if you never grew up in it, you're gonna feel so like lost, and you're gonna feel like, why do I have to do this?
Yeah.
So definitely ease into it. Again, read books. I think even something as simple as travel books, like start out with that. And you can read more history, just to understand the history of that country as well. Maybe watch some documentaries, some movies. You can also reach out to adoptee communities, which, I mean, there's a lot on Facebook, a lot on social media. So do that, as well as try to, if you can, and if the child's open to it and wants to, you can do trips back to the home country of the child. Just make sure it's, everyone wants to do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be for a whole month. Maybe just like, if you can, if it's not too far away, just like a week or so. And there's so many resources that are out there. Like I said, like books. You can also, if you have a good connection with the orphanage, you can ask them for advice too. There's just a lot of communities, like adoption communities of people who have adopted and who are adopted, that would be able to provide some good insight on that. Yeah.
So we discussed this sort of stuff before we made this video, and I think Aree made a really interesting point. It was, we were talking about, would you ever adopt? And you were talking about your views on adoptees adopting.
Right.
So could you go into a bit more of that for us?
Like I said before, I would never discourage someone from adopting unless they're like crazy and I don't think they're fit to be good parents. I think it would be amazing if other adoptees could adopt kids, because we understand the experience and we know how to approach really difficult questions that you might have growing up as someone who is adopted. Like, who are my biological parents? Where do I come from? What identity do I take on? So I think that being adopted definitely gives us this perspective where that parents or people who weren't adopted wouldn't have. And then that kind of goes back to whether you would adopt do a transracial, transnational adoption. For me personally, I have thought about that, and not to turn away a child or anything like that, but I think I would be very comfortable adopting within my own race, just because it does, I don't know, I think it would make them feel more comfortable. And yeah, I don't know why. I don't really have an answer as to why exactly, but it's kind of always felt like I would be so open to adopting from countries like Cambodia or from countries that are close to the region, like my region in Southeast Asia, because I'm Southeast Asian, and the kid doesn't need to be Thai.
Yes.
Per se, but just being Southeast Asian already kind of creates this closeness that I would be able to, I don't know, navigate a lot better than someone who isn't Southeast Asian. But yeah, like if I meet a child, I visit an orphanage, I meet a child, or I match with a child that isn't my race too, obviously I would love that child to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely be open to adopting.
Yeah.
If I want to have kids.
Different question.
Right.
The final question is, what do you wish more people knew about adoption or the process or anything like that?
I think I wish people were more like sensitive to the issue. Like, we don't need to make it a huge elephant in the room. Like, I don't make being adopted my whole personality.
Yeah.
But just try to be mindful of the things that you ask kids who are adopted. Like, you don't ask, who are your real parents? Because I consider my real parents the people who loved me and raised me, provided for me, gave me everything, like sacrificed so much to give me a good life, as my real parents. Like, what is real? Is real blood? Like, there's so many families that aren't nuclear families, and you don't ask them these questions. Who are your real parents? Also, try not to invalidate adoptees' identities. I know growing up in the U.S., like, I wasn't really fully accepted into the Asian American community because, yeah, I'm Asian on the outside, but then on the inside, I don't know, like, I still am Asian, DNA-wise, whatever, but I didn't have the same experience as they did. I wasn't, like, first generation, and so a lot of them just kind of didn't feel comfortable sharing their experiences, and didn't know how to accept me into the Asian American community because I didn't have a similar experience growing up as they did.
Yeah.
And I actually remember a professor at university, she told me, you're basically white.
Oh, wow.
And for me, like, I had never thought of it that way, and it made me question a lot. And like, I think just, you don't really have a right to say, no one has a right to tell you what you are.
Exactly.
And so I think just being more sensitive around the topic, and like, it's totally fine to ask questions, and I encourage people to ask questions, and I love people who ask questions about adoption because it gives me an opportunity to educate them. I think just being more sensitive to the issue. Don't try to beat around the bush and make it awkward, or like, I don't know what to ask. Like, you can ask, but then be also okay with maybe getting a response that you didn't expect, or you didn't necessarily like want to hear. And also just being open to adoption. I think it is something that people joke about a lot. Like, if someone is weird within the family, they'll say, oh, we tell him he's adopted.
Yeah.
And like, why does being adopted have to be a negative thing?
That's very true. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's something that I would encourage those who maybe aren't too familiar with it to do. But yeah, ask questions. I think questions is the only way to learn.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, huge thank you again for sharing your story, answering the questions. I think it's honestly it's very fascinating hearing different people's backgrounds and stories, and hopefully those watching have learned something new today. If you have any questions, please do drop them in the comments, and I'll try and send them over to Aree.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, questions are always welcome.
And then I'll get back to you with the answers.
Yeah.
For those watching, please do press the like, the share and subscribe to your friends, to your family. But most importantly, have a very blessed day. And until next time, sorry to Konaka. Goodbye everyone.